Rebecca. I'm a flower farmer at Silver Grey Foliage in Yorkshire, and we're back up at the field today. It's Sunday, so we're all here. Anthony's doing some planting over to my left. The children are taking some sellotape off some cardboard straight in front of me, and my job right now is to start getting in the ground some Alchemical Mollis that we have moved from the garden. So I really do practice what I preach. So for those of you that have, sorry, these are my marigolds, they're my favourite kind of glove to wear when I'm outdoors, if at all possible, because you still get some dexterity. That's my top tip. They're not necessarily the warmest, but they keep the wind off and they stop you getting wet. So they're good enough to stop your hands from getting cold and frozen, and good enough is sometimes what we need as flower farmers. Anyway, I was talking about practicing what we preach. So for those of you that have the Flower Farmers Planner, you'll have seen that I suggest that at the beginning of each season, or just before that, you think about the big jobs that you want to achieve, and then you break them down into medium tasks, so that kind of halfway point where you know that you're on the way, and then you break things down into tiny, smaller steps to make it easier to see what you need to do to get to the end point, because my end point is to get the rest of this first field planted so that we can move on to the field behind us, which is now potentially within our gift, which is incredibly exciting. So that's lovely, but getting the rest of this first field planted, that's quite a big task. So I've broken it down into the beds that we need to make, the things that we need to buy, the plants that I need to sow, the compost that we need to make sure that we have, and the manure, the tools that we need, the matting that we need, and all of those steps, and ordering them and doing price checks and all those things, so that once those steps are done, I have the matting that I need, I have the plants that I need, and we're just ready to go. So today's job is just to go bang, 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 put in the Alchemical Mollis. Now, I haven't bought the Alchemical Mollis. It has come from the garden at HQ. So our garden at HQ, when we moved in 5-6 years ago, was a mess. Like a beautiful mess. You could see that lots of architecture had gone into it, but there were things everywhere. And I'm certain that our neighbours would have loved me to get rid of the Alchemical Mollis, but I dug it all up, and then it's super hardy, so I left it completely uncared for in the middle of the grass all winter, and then replanted it where I wanted it the following spring. And that was 5 years ago. So Anthony in autumn, so a while ago, dug it up again, and we just haven't had the time, and more importantly, we didn't have the beds made to get it in the right place, so it's just sat again on top of the grass. And then yesterday I started splitting it, and today we're going to start getting it into the ground. So I'm hoping that it will fill at least half of one of these beds. I expect it to, really, and once we're done. So it's a small task in that I split 2 buckets worth yesterday, and because it's grown so much in that kind of time, I reckon that there's another 5 or 6 buckets worth to get up here over the course of the week. I would love to do it quicker, but there's just 2 of us, and there are other jobs to do as well. So it's one of those things that I can pick off and do a bit of at a time, as long as I get it in the ground really in the next 2 to 3 weeks, which is my aim. So that's what I'm going to crack on with now. So this is a clump of Alchemical Mollis, and you can see that I've started to get some clumps in here. And you can also see that I've literally divided it up with a spade. I've driven the spade through it with a good hard stamp, and cut it up. I haven't been particularly careful, and you can see that it's been so mild up here in Yorkshire at times that we've got new growth coming through. So it really is time for me to get this in the ground. So the only thing that makes me slightly sad about this process is this. I'm just going to show you, I'll turn this around and then I'll talk to you face to face. So this is a little bit of fox and cubs. So fox and cubs is beautiful. It's an orange flower that opens up during the day and closes during the night. A bit like calathea, I think they are, prayer plants. And whilst that's really lovely, it's also, in my eyes, a weed, because I can't cut it. It's not very useful to cut flower, and it spreads like bilio. Like, it sets its roots. It is almost impossible to get rid of, and we've got loads of it at home HQ. So I'm a bit sad that I brought that up to the field. It's not going to affect the Alchemical Mollis. Mollis, so I'm not too bothered about it here, but it self-seeds again. You often find it in country gardens. It's really pretty. Just for me, it's a bit of a pain. So one of the ways that you know that it is time, or it's getting to be time to start planting out, is by looking at what the weeds are doing. So yeah, I don't like weeds, but also I do like weeds. So I'm going to just turn this around and show you a self-seeded bed. I don't do much self-seeding. It isn't my thing. It's too unpredictable, and I just find it painful, so I don't do much of it, but I'm just going to show you this. So this is a self-seeded bed. It's got a mixture of Dorcas and Nigella in it, and I think there's some Bupleurum in here as well, and then you can see that the grass is very excited. I've just pulled out some weeds, but look, there's one that's making its way out here, and so if the weeds are happy, it's happy enough to start getting planting. So you just caught the end of uncovering perennials 2. So perennials 1 we made at the top there last year. Perennials 2 is under here, and it's been covered in plastic since spring, February-ish last year, and children are just helping Anthony to roll back the plastic so that we can see what's underneath. So this bit of space that the children and Anthony are just clearing at the moment has been planted before, and you'll be able to see that by the fact that there are some bits of matting down. But in our folly, we left the grass as it was, and we made our no-dig beds by just lifting the turf. That was a really bad idea. Essentially, our flowers and our plants could not compete with the grass that has been field grass. It's been sprayed for years by farmers so that they can have good grass for their crops. So we gave up because we were just fighting a losing battle and covered it up. We dug out the plants before we did that. Don't worry, I didn't leave the plants in there. So it looks a bit like a desolate bit of space. This bit here has got alliums in that are coming out. They weren't particularly productive this year, or 2022, so we'll see how they do. We will keep those and just clear off the grass. All of this grass that is at least brown, I promise you it is not dead. But it's been covered for a year, so it'll be much easier for us to get on top of it, make some decent no-dig beds, as we now do, and to carry on, which is a real blessing. The real quandary that we have sometimes is whether this grass we should rake off the top or whether we should just ignore it. And we've chosen to not rake off the top because it's full of grass seed. So the more we do that, the more we spread the weed, as I like to call the grass. And this is Team Silver Grey in action. Plastic rolled, and that plastic will be moved over to that side of the field to get the ground covered and prepped. So we finished today by laying out the first bit of plastic on the new field. So realistically, we only have the budget to do half of the field this year, I reckon. So the other half we really need to protect, stop the grass from growing, because it's a complete waste of our time to be spending it strimming and mowing. Because we don't have much time between the pair of us as it is. So that black plastic is down. It's super windy up here. Because it's super windy, you could just see Anthony just finishing off getting the weights on top of that plastic to hold it down. It's got nails all the way around the edge and then weights on top of it to stop it from going anywhere. And just from experience, bad experience, it is worth the effort of getting that done. And so that's us for the morning. I would love to spend more time up here, but we're a family, and we have to reward the children too. So my son has a play date this afternoon, so we'll do some jobs at home, but generally just have some family time too. It's not all about the flower farm.